We can now bring in our international affairs editor, Angela Diffley. Angela, the satirical newspaper Charlie Hebdo was singled out by these two gunmen in January 2015 over past depictions they had of the Prophet Muhammad. Now, in Islam, depicting the Prophet Muhammad is considered blasphemy, but blasphemy is not illegal here in France, is it?
Yeah, that is the heart of this whole story. Here in France, there are no laws against blasphemy. It is perfectly legal to ridicule, to insult religions, and there is a long tradition of doing so. It is not legal to incite hatred against groups of people or people. And this is born, really, of the massive, epic struggle, really, in the 18th and 19th centuries in France between the French state and the all-powerful Catholic Church. And it was about pushing back the Catholic Church and making sure that it didn't have too much power. Now, of course, since those times, there are now many more religions in France, but the situation remains the same. France has no laws against blasphemy. This is part of French Enlightenment values. They do not intend to have them. This is not a country like, for example, Pakistan, where there are lynchings for blasphemy. This is the system the French have chosen. And Charlie Hebdo, as a magazine regularly, or as a newspaper, causes extreme offence to all sorts of groups of people. And it is to many people's not to many people's taste, Charlie's Hebdo. It is a particular type of satire and routinely offends. But in France, if there is a grievance, if it is thought that the line is blurred between inciting to hatred and insulting a religion, you take the matter to court. And that is what went so wrong here. And on many occasions, Charlie Hebdo has lost court cases.
Let's talk about the aftermath of the Charlie Hebdo attacks, because on the 11th of January 2015, there was this big showing of national unity. The Je suis Charlie really became a movement and a rallying cry, if you will. What has happened since then?
Yeah, I mean, I think many people would argue that there wasn't quite the level of national unity that television screens might have suggested. But there was a significant coming together of the French people. There was deep shock after this event that cartoons, satires might lead to such a bloody end. It was really a significant day in France, January the 11th, when people came together. As to what has happened since, you talked about people holding up banners, and there were so many. There were badges, Je suis Charlie. That has, to some extent, changed. I think it's very interesting to look at two groups of people, particularly the young. If you look at polls today, there is something of a shift among the young in France. And more young people appear to prioritise not causing offence. This is, of course, the generation of cancel culture, over freedom of speech. That is something interesting to watch in polls and to see how that will develop. The other interesting group of people are the far left. Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who is the leader of the far left, back in 2015, was very vocal in support of the right to satirize. He was very vocal, spoke out very strongly about it. He has shifted considerably and taken with him the far left. And they really are wavering on this issue in many respects. They appear now to be unsure about whether freedom of speech and the right to satirize is as sacred as that. There are voices in that group that seem unclear about that. And underlying that, I think, is the fact that, again, as I said before, these laws were brought in, many of them by the left in France, to push back the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church in France in the 17th and 18th centuries represented the elite, the establishment. What has changed since then is that there are now more religions in France, and Muslims do not, on the whole, represent the establishment. Many of them are low-income voters. And I think that on the left, some people are uncomfortable with making a group of people who are low income, not the establishment, feel uneasy. That is something that is still moving, still shifting, but I think it's a detectable shift since 2015.